2 events among our Japanese lineup of events have now been cleared. And what we are going to do now is we are going to buy ourselves a used car from the 80's, as that is our next event. And we've also got a few of the old cars in here as well, including the Honda N360, the Honda Z Act, the Jensen Interceptor Mark III. I've already used that car, don't need to use it again. And also the Renault 5 Turbo. But the main focus of this video is to get an 80's car, and that's what I'm here to do. And make sure that my choice is not overpowered. Not really in the mood to use a Skyline yet. I could use the RX-7 FC if I really wanted to. Let's see what else there is first. Okay, well, got some interesting candidates here. But I think we're probably going to be dealing with mostly cars in the 200 horsepower bracket or less than that. So I don't think we're going to have too many issues here. Already used an MR2, probably don't need to use another one. So I think let's use... let's have a look. You know what? I haven't used a Toyota Celica yet, so I might consider using this one. I'll have a look and see what else there is. Okay, well, got the Isuzu. I could use this thing if I really wanted to, but I'm leaning more towards the Toyota at the moment. Possibly the CRX. Yeah, that one's not really worth it. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to use the Celica because it's the first one I spotted in here. In confident two-tone. Hopefully I have a choice of confidence here, since I'm technically using an 80's Japanese car. And now we must head over to the GT Auto to get this thing serviced. Can we actually fit a wing to this thing? Hey, we can. Although it's probably not needed. Actually, no, I'm not going to fit a wing to this thing. I think we're fine. Yeah. I'll get my rims from Speedline, just to add to my confident two-tone, because why not? Let's have a look. What else do we have? Yeah, you know what, this'll work. I think this'll work. We should be okay with this. Okay, so that is now our servicing done, and hopefully we will not need to do any tuning to this thing for our next event. The Japanese 80's Festival. I did not do my research prior to this. So, unmodified cars only, and we can basically pick, aside from unmodified cars, basically any Japanese road car made between 1980 and 89. And this time 3 grand if we can win a race, and basically 15 grand if we can win all 5 races, as we're heading to El Capitan, Clubman Stage Route 5, Tsukuba Circuit, Apricot Hill, and last but not least, 2 full laps of Suzuka. So, let's see how we go. I really hope my car is not woefully off the pace. Or if it is, then well, I'll just have to back out, probably put a turbocharger on this thing, and then... Oh, I'm up to 170 horsepower since I serviced. I'm still convinced in saying we won't have too many issues here, so I think we should be okay with this. So we've got 2 Toyota Celica 2000s in this race, along with an 83 Skyline hardtop, a Toyota MR2 1600 supercharged, another Skyline hardtop, and yeah, that's about it. 4 Toyotas, 2 Nissans. Let's go. Oh boy, 158 points. And as I would have expected, wheel spin off the start. 158 points. Yeah, something tells me I definitely need a supercharger on this. 54,043 miles is how many I've driven, or how many this car has driven. Now clearing the first of the 2 Celicas, and I think that was one of the Nissans I just cleared there. And it looks like it's going to be a battle of the Toyotas here. 158 points if I can win. This is turning out to be a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I was not expecting myself to already be in the thick of it. But either way, here we are. Basically, I just needed to put on a oil change, and just like that, well, we are already fighting amongst the leaders. As the gap is 1 1/4 seconds to the leading Toyota Celica, even though I'm technically racing him in an older model of Toyota Celica. Because why not? So closing in, trying to go around the outside, and it looks like that's what I have now done. I think it's obvious to say that judging by the amount of tyre wear I have on the front, this thing is definitely front wheel drive, and while the Toyota I'm up against in front of me is technically four wheel drive. Because, well, that's the rally car model, I think, is what that is. And, well, the MR2 is keeping up with us. So it's fair to say that we're definitely putting on quite a battle here. As the MR2 now clears the Celica. Not very often you actually get to see battles here at El Capitan. And I think it's fair to say this is one of those exceptions. As the gap is only 8/10 to the MR2. I did not think this was going to be quite as engaging as it was. And now the battle is over. I basically did nothing to this thing tuning wise. And it might look as though I'm here to benefit from that. As I have now got myself out to a pretty sizable gap in the lead. Or so it would seem. So 1.8 seconds I think is the gap. Yeah, I'm convinced in saying we should be fine from here. I don't think we need to be with the hood view anymore. So, if there's one thing I've noticed that's quite distinctive, aside from the dark shade of black that this car has, it's also because of just how big the taillights are on this thing. Well, the battle is still continuing, but this time it's with the MR2, who is right behind me. Although then again, because that particular model is supercharged, I'm not too surprised to say that he's engaging in this battle. I'm really not that surprised in all honesty. Because if anyone was gonna have a shot at beating me, it might as well be the MR2. And a little bit wide there, but still able to at least keep my car off the wall. The MR2 is very close to beating me here, but somehow, some way, I am managing to hold on. I'm going to assume the MR2 must be faster in the final section compared to the middle sector. And I think I might have had a snap of oversteer for a moment there. Although it could have been understeer, but I'm convinced in saying it was oversteer because that was on corner exit, not on corner entry. That's actually a rarity coming from a front wheel drive car, because normally if it's understeer then the car itself doesn't want to get through the corner, but if it's oversteer then that's normally when control is lost from the rear of the car. I'm going to assume that must have been a case of understeer on that corner exit, which was partly the reason why I ran wide the way I did. Still, this has been quite some battle between me and the MR2, but I don't think he's going to beat me. And he doesn't. I beat him by 1 second. Gotta say, I did not think the MR2 was actually going to be my main rival in this. But there we go. That was a pretty good race. And I did not think it was going to be a case of Celica versus MR2 in the end, but, well, we found a way to make it happen, and I won by 1 second flat in the end. And one of the Nissans did finish, whereas the other Toyota Celica finished in last. But anyway, let's move on now to race 2. Actually, on second thoughts, I am going to save a replay here, because why not? I don't think I've actually saved a replay at El Capitan recently, at least not on the forward variant. I think that's right. Anyway. So, saving my replay at El Capitan. And now, we are moving on to race 2. And once again, it is a case of 4 Toyotas versus 2 Nissans, as all the Toyotas, unsurprisingly, are Celicas. And aside from that, we've got 2 Skylines. 2 laps of Special Stage Route 5 Reverse. Okay, let's go. And not quite as big on the points as we were before, because previously we were at 158 points, and this time it's now down to 143 points. Also, I've driven a total of either 10 or 11 miles in this thing, because I did make sure to keep count of how many miles this car had done since it was new. And I think it's fair to say the mileage it's put out is plenty. But then again, we do have plenty of laps to get to the front, so we'll see how we go. As I've already brought the gap down to 3.5 seconds, and already passing one of the Toyotas by the end of lap 1. I think it's fair to say I have got some pretty good handling in this thing altogether, as the gap is now down to 2.5 seconds, so I suspect we're not going to have too much trouble here as I run into the back of the Skyline for just a second there. Tried to see if I can pass him from the outside. He's still blocking me, but I am of course willing to stick my feet in the dirt. I get the pass done, and now I've got to overtake the second Toyota Celica, and got a little bit of understeer there off that corner exit, but I did make sure to limit the wheel spin, and running wide through the tunnel and trying to see if I can clear the I think this is the second Skyline I'm trying to clear here. Gap is now 1.15 seconds to the leading Toyota. I could have used the Mitsubishi Galant. If I really wanted to, but I chose not to because, well, I'd already used a Mitsu for one of these events. And also because, well, the previous car I used was technically a Lancer 1600, as I'm trying to pass the Toyota. I have a feeling this is going to be another close fought battle like what I had with the MR2 at El Capitan, where it was basically just me getting the best of the AI in Sector 2 that actually helped me to win at El Capitan the way I did. And the rest of the field is clear from us, so it's very much a two-horse battle here between two Toyotas. I of course am very much in the older model and running wide, and that's a double whammy from both sides of the concrete. Got a little bit loose there on that corner entry, but able to keep everything in tow, as the gap is now 0.4 of a second. I'm definitely having fun with this, has to be said. There's definitely fun involved in this, and he's definitely holding his own at the moment. 0.2 up. I've been just behind him the whole way. And yep, I hit the outside wall, unsurprisingly, even though I did my best not to. But looking for a gap on the Celica. I think I'm going to find it either sooner rather than later, I hope, even though it's probably going to be much later than we think. And trying to go on the inside. I think I just pulled it off. Oh, hello. And the Skyline has now just joined the party. He's now trying to crash this 1-2 party for the Toyotas. But my older model of Toyota has once again proved to be the benefactor, scoring a whopping 143 points and once again winning by just 1 second over the GTR. Unbelievable. And well, because we were technically racing on a short track, everyone understandably finished. Still, this is pretty fun. I honestly did not think I was actually going to be having this much fun with what's mostly been, or what's basically been, all Nissans and Toyotas at the moment. I did not think I was going to have this much fun, but either way, it's proven to be that way at the moment, so let's see if we can keep it up in race 3. And now this is where things get interesting. As for this one, we've got two Toyotas, 2 Nissans, 1 Mazda, and 1 Honda. As we've got 2 Skylines, 1 RX-7 FC, along with a Honda CRX and 2 Toyota Celicas. And we're back up to 158 points again, so that means I'm either going to win this barely, or it's going to be a case of me having to push myself straight to the front and basically being engaged in another all-out thriller. Yeah, I'm actually pretty mad at myself now. You know what? I'm actually gonna go about as hard as I can possibly go now, because at this stage, I've basically lost to the skyline in basically every conceivable way you can think of. And yes, I did bump the CRX to the outside. But you know what? I'm honestly pretty pissed off at myself that at this stage, I've just decided I don't care anymore. I need to beat that skyline, and I need to beat him now. I basically need to go about as hard as I can possibly go. And make sure that this time, I absolutely get it done. By the way, I did also put traction control back on just in case. I really thought for sure that third attempt was going to be the charm, but because I had a snap of understeer that basically killed my corner exit speed right when I was literally inches away from winning. I wound up losing in probably the most painful way imaginable. I went off course, and basically I chose to be the fucking idiot and just hand over the win by simply being too greedy with my throttle input, and basically I quite literally shot myself in the foot, quite possibly the leg as well. I basically shot myself in the leg right there on that last lap. Knowing that I was so close to winning. Get out my fucking way. And basically, it was right there at the finish where I lost it in probably the most humiliating way imaginable. I honestly don't care what happens anymore as long as I beat that skyline. I've basically got to go full smash mouth on that skyline if I'm gonna beat him. I've simply decided there is no other way for me to beat him, especially since I have now lost 3 straight. And in all honesty, I'm pretty livid with myself, knowing that it was on an attempt where I both could have and absolutely should have won. But right at the end, because I was too fucking greedy with the throttle in that last corner, it ultimately costed me right at the end, when I went into the grass and I once again became the victim of finishing second in what was basically a photo finish. Basically, I shit the bed, and for that reason, I've honestly just decided But at this point, well, my gloves are basically off. Basically, I need to win this, and I need to win this now. Because I've already lost to the skyline now 3 straight times. And on that 3rd time, it was about as... probably, as I said before, humiliating as it could possibly get. And it looks like that might happen again if I'm not careful enough to actually not shit myself this time. If that skyline is going to pass me on the inside, I'm actually going to block. Oh no you don't. You are not fucking passing me this time. I may have been greedy once before, but I'm not letting you pass this time. Victory! On my 4th attempt. By 3/10 over the skyline. I got you, you bastard. You ain't beating me a 4th time. And the CRX is the only one not to finish. I'm not surprised. So glad that's over. That basically had to be a smash mouth attempt if I was going to get that one done. I basically just had to shove it to him. I basically just had to shove it to the skyline if I was going to beat him. And that's eventually what I did. By 0.3 of a second, as I finished in 5 minutes 58 seconds flat. Then the RX-7 finished 3rd, the 2nd Skyline was 4th, followed by the 2nd Celica, and then we had the Honda Ballade Sports CRX in 6th and last. And this time we've got a first appearance from both Isuzu and also from Mitsubishi. So this is basically what I did on that winning attempt, or, well, more or less when I had the winning attempt. So I put the traction control back up to 1 because, well, I was getting so much wheel spin off those corner exits that the traction control had to be switched back on if I was actually going to get decent corner exit speed to actually give it to the AI. And I gotta say, that Skyline Turbo I was up against, he was pretty damn fast, to say the least. Right, okay. I think it's glaringly obvious to say that we've now entered the territory where we absolutely need upgrades if we're going to avoid having another absolute hammering like we had in that race. Also, this thing is natural aspiration. But anyway. So, I'm gonna make sure I get parts fitted to this thing. And I'm gonna make sure that I get both Stage 1 and Stage 2. Otherwise, I will quite literally have my balls crushed. Again. And as you can imagine, I don't want that. So, gonna put on engine tuning. Also gonna put on a sports suspension. And if that Trueno shows up again, the same one that basically just demolished us last time, I will make sure to be ready for it. because I would not be at all surprised if he shows up again. Especially because he just absolutely dismantled us last time. I'm not prepared to let that happen again. Should he show up again. Yeah, I think we'll be fine with that. And yeah, just to be safe. I'll put on racing brakes as well, just to be safe. Okay, Mr. Tofu Car. Are you ready for round 2? Should you show up again? Because if you do show up again, I will be fucking ready for you this time. Oh, he did show up. Well, anyway, because I was just basically blown out so badly last time, I basically needed about as much tuning as I could possibly put on this thing in order to actually get it done. Because last time, I was beaten by nearly 11 seconds when I finished P2. So that Turismo is basically otherworldly compared to the other opponents I've faced. You know what? It's pretty much stage 2 or bust, is what it is. That's probably the only way I'm actually going to get this race done. I did have a solid run without doing any tuning, but this race has been kicking my ass to the point of where tuning itself has just become inevitable. And it basically needs to happen if I'm going to physically have any chance of pulling this off. I did have a good run in the first 3 races without doing any tuning, but I've just been getting my ass whooped to the point of where tuning has now just become an essential factor for me to stop the guys in front of me. I think it's just become obvious now that this needs to happen if I am going to have any chance of winning with this car. Then that is what the case needs to be. Especially since I was beaten by the Skyline on 3 straight attempts before I actually beat him on the 4th attempt at Tsukuba. But this time, I am closing in on the MR2 in front of me, and I am convinced in saying that because the gap is 2 seconds, this means I have a shot. I have a minimal shot, but I definitely have a shot. And I kind of figured stage 2 tuning was going to be needed in order to avoid having a similar blowout loss the way I did on the first attempt. And I think it's fair to say that this time I'm a lot closer than I was before. And I'm also well clear of the Turismo as well. Especially since he did blow me out so badly on the first attempt. Then the second attempt, I knew I wasn't fast enough. And because I made 1 too many mistakes on that previous run I had, Well, it was kind of obvious to say that tuning had to be done to this thing if there was going to be any shot of me pulling this off. Especially since Apricot Hill is known for having close racing in this game. And I just got pushed off the track. Well, considering how much I've been blown out by that Toyota, I think it's fair to say the MR2 did get revenge on me in that previous attempt, and I was prepared to finish it. Had I not made one too many mistakes on that third lap that just ultimately decided, okay, it's not worth it. And that's eventually what I said to myself, and the MR2 gives me a bump from behind. He does try to force me into a mistake, but he is unsuccessful. I am glad to say that once I put on the Stage 2 engine tuning, I at least had a shot. And now I am ahead by nearly a second. Unless the MR2 finds a way of coming back. And well, considering that MR2 is supercharged, I would not be too surprised. But I think with my Stage 2 engine tuning, I have a much stronger shot of actually getting this done. Because, unlike Tsukuba, this is looking more and more like it will be a case of third time's the charm. Especially since I have now been racing in this series for nearly an hour and 16 minutes. He is closing in. Oh, he runs wide. Okay, I think that's just handed me the win. Even though I technically threaded the needle earlier in the lap anyway. But it's fine. Third time's the charm at Apricot Hill. Thankfully. The tuning had to be done if there was going to be any shot of me pulling this off. That's basically what I established. I would have honestly had little to no chance of pulling this off without some tuning, because of how I was blown out so badly. But anyway, I wind up winning in the end by 4 seconds over the Toyota MR2 1600G, then the Toyota Sprinter Trueno GT Apex, who blew me out on my first attempt by 11 seconds, came home third. Then we had the Nissan Silvia in fourth, the S13, then the Skyline was fifth, and once again the Honda CRX was at the back. Now we just have one race to go. And so for the final race of the Japanese 80's Festival, we are ending at Suzuka Circuit, and where, in terms of our opponents, we have a Nissan Skyline Hardtop, along with a Toyota Celica, a Toyota Carina, the Sprinter Trueno, and the Nissan Silvia. 3.6 miles, so it'll probably be 2.5 minutes for both laps. And since the MR2 is not involved in this, I am going to switch back to Stage 1 engine tuning. The tuning basically had to be done for the previous race. I'm convinced in saying this one will be almost as hard as what I went through before. Except for saying this time, it's only 115 points, whereas before I was battling to score 125 points, before I put on the Stage 2 engine tuning that ultimately helped me in the end to eventually score the W at Apricot Hill. I think out of all the races I've done so far, I would argue that Tsukuba has been the hardest in terms of being able to pull off, but Apricot Hill, without the tuning, I can definitely say that was the worst of the races I've done up to this point. Because after having two cutthroat thrillers of races at both El Capitan and at CSR 5, shit. The third race at Tsukuba, it definitely gave me some trouble, but I did pull it off, and I still had fun in the process. I basically just had to go full smash mouth on the skyline that was basically just intimidating me for pretty much the entirety of that race. And because we're now at Suzuka, which is another track dependent on speed, it's obvious to say that I was glad to say it was Apricot Hill that forced me into doing the tuning and not this place. And already I am 3.5 tenths up on the Skyline hardtop. So heading through Casio Triangle, and now heading through Amusement Park Corner. I can also see a bit of a roller coaster there. But if there's one thing I can say for sure about these last 3 races, is that they have definitely been a roller coaster. But I have been here to deliver on what has more or less been a thrilling Japanese 80s festival. There have definitely been plenty of challengers who have very much tried to break my momentum, but it's fair to say that Apricot Hill, because I got blown out so badly by the Trueno that is now running in 3rd, as in he was basically just otherworldly with how fast he was. Oh, and here comes the Sylvia. He really served it to me. I think it's fair to say I might have to do the same thing back again. Yeah, I had to do that. Well, not necessarily run him out wide, but because he kind of forced his way up the inside on Decna 2, and he basically ran me off the track, I figured it was appropriate to give him similar payback, but I wasn't intent on running him off the track. I was simply intent with making sure that he didn't pass me. Again, it's fair to say the AI have definitely gotten stronger over the course of this event, and the Trueno is behind me once again. He is trying to derail my progress as we head through 130R. I am still ahead of him as we now head under the Konami board and through Casio Triangle, the 2 chicanes that make up the end of the lap. He got a much smoother exit out of there, as I had a snap of understeer, but he's going to be close, but he's not going to get me in time. 3 out of 5 wins on my first try. I'm so glad I did not need to put on the Stage 2 engine tuning to win that last race. Fuck me, that was hard. I really had to get my ass into gear for those last 3 races. And that took me 1 hour and 25 minutes to get those 5 races done, with the inclusion of tuning in between, which had to be done. I don't care what anyone says, the tuning had to be done if I was going to get through these last 2 races. But anyway, those are your results, with the Karina at the back. Okay, fuck it. It's over. After going through some wild and fun racing, and also some struggling racing, we have done the Japanese 80's Festival. And we have won the Mitsubishi HSR 2 concept from 1989. I'm not sure if they ever put this car into production. I think it's just one of those one and done concept cars. Kind of like the Dodge Copperhead in a way, which is another example of one of those concept cars that never made the production line. But anyway. I really had to go for it in those last 3 races. In most of those races, I basically had to go for it. But I'm so glad it's over. And now we just have the 90's challenge to come next. So, let's go and check our progress and see how far down we've dropped in our win ratio percentage. So, 0.7% complete, and we've now dropped 2% in our win ratio, down now to 84.3%. I don't think that's going to be the end of it. Also, we're now up to 75 cars. And all in all, I've used a total of 32 cars up to this point. I'm still thinking about my plans for what to do with both the Cadillac and the GT licensed Skyline. But before then, I need to find my Mitsubishi, wherever the hell it is. There you are. The HSR2 Advanced Research. And because it's a concept car, we cannot sell it for anything. Also, this thing is 4-wheel drive and has a V6. Okay, anyway. After going through plenty of trial and error to get through that episode, 1 hour and 28 minutes later, that was the Japanese 80's Festival. And next up we have got the 90's Challenge, coming in the next episode.